This is my first Blender project for YouTube. And I'm gonna tell you the story of how this became my most difficult creation using the best software that human beings have ever created. Blender. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Andres, but I struggle sometimes to pronunciate properly in English, so you can simply call me Nex. I love 3D, VFX, parkour and cinematography, but I live in one of the worst countries in the world to learn anything. Being an artist here isn't easy. There are randomly blackouts, the internet falls every moment, and we have the worst internet speed in Latin America. So here begins the story of a Cuban guy simply trying to make some art. This is gonna be a challenge. The beginning of any of my personal projects starts with a little spark of inspiration. I was looking for an excuse to start this channel, something to push me to action, but I had no idea what to do. I spent a long time looking for that drop of inspiration, but the more I look it, the more noise was in my head. Until I decided to turn off my brain. Some time ago, YouTube and Instagram started recommending me this type of cinematic travel videos, and I love it. I've always had the desire to travel the world, to know what kind of things are outside this little island and capture those moments on camera. But I'm in a situation that makes that difficult right now, and taking shots like this is practically impossible. However, I started to notice something. I'm a 3D artist. I can model, texturize, and animate whatever I want, bring any idea from my mind to reality. And it was at that precise moment when I started to feel an idea coming into my head. What if I create my own shots and travel digitally? For the first time, I felt I had something in my hands. A challenging kind of 3D project would give me the motivation to finally start. It is at this moment that I realized that Travel, a next render collection, was born. The first idea was to create a huge render collection / short film that represents the mood that I felt when I was taking photos while traveling. I usually look for inspiration and lots of reference first. There are amazing webs for that, but the reliable is always Pinterest. So with all the reference ready, it's time to make my first scene. Let's open our favorite software and of course delete the queue. Then I put my reference images in PureRef. I wanted to make a kind of alley, but this one from Megan Tan's channel inspired me a lot. I always start by blocking the scene and making basic shapes until I get a good composition. Then it's time to model everything. Water pipes, lampposts, cables, boxes, more cables, and when all the models are ready, I try the camera animation. So the only thing left to do is to add some texture. I think the best way to get fast but realistic results is to use real photos. So I went out and tried to catch some images. But when I started working late at night, some textures simply don't match my models, and the free high quality ones were a very limited choice. I was unsatisfied, but just at that moment, someone knocks at the door. But I found no one, except a letter that said, "There is always a creative solution to every apparent technical problem." That's it. The answer has always been right in front of my eyes. I can download any texture no matter what quality it is to find a creative alternative. So, I did it. I started to look beyond my limitations, mix texture, trick the light in my favor, switch to a workflow that allows me to get the job done. Sooner than later, I had my first results. I used AI models to upscale the texture. I wanted them to be perfect, but I learned that perfect isn't always the best option. When I am not working, I usually go out to run errands like buying the 4 loaf of bread the government allows us to buy and to get some rest. After waking up, I go back to my office and see if the rendering is done. Everything looks good, so I move on to my favorite part, post-processing. I tend to use the following software in this process: DaVinci Resolve or After Effects. For this project, I did almost everything in the color section of DaVinci using these notes. From color correction, masking, color grading to the spices, film emulation, adding film grain, vignette, fake lens flares, and more. There are also scenes that require a bit more creativity. For these shots, I wanted to recreate a sort of ATM where a car is withdrawn. So I used a green screen, I keyed my hand and imported it into Blender as I adjusted the light to get a perfect match. And there are other scenes I really like the reference, so I tried my own style. Countless hours of work later, I woke up with bad news in front of me. The render stopped for some reason, and it seems to be an storage issue. Sometimes things just don't go right all the time. So you need to find a moment to clean up all the mess. I can make almost a 3D scene per day, and I want to make more than 3 shots, so that means more than a month to finish it, not counting the editing. Every time I start a new project, I underestimate how much time and effort it will actually take, because I get hyped up in the beginning, but then there is always that point where I just have to be disciplined with myself. Fortunately, I have this app. With Notion, I can organize all my ideas and for this project, keep track of all the progress. 1 render per day. But I'm not gonna lie, this has been a tough project to do, and just when I think I'm getting to the end, a notification pops up on my phone. You have a message. I have been in this similar situation so many times. When I get very excited about working on my personal or creative ideas, reality seems to slap me in the face once again. I was forced to put aside my project for a while, on the summer vacations to get into other businesses, the frustration of my channel not being ready yet, and the happiness of being paid and able to buy more bread. But against all my creative wheels, I need the money. I won't stop. I tried to handle both works, but the tension levels started to rise unexpectedly. The deadlines were getting closer, the PC was slowing down more and more, and my storage started to fill up. Different artworks, different tasks, same software. I ended up putting a pause on my personal projects to have more time to deliver other works.
Actually, it will be ready for tomorrow.
With time, these jobs were delivered and the clients were very happy with the final results. But my work wasn't done yet. I had a clear path now, although my inspiration wasn't at its peak. But you know what? Sometimes you just gotta let the things be. Life is full of moments that are there for you to recharge your batteries. Take advantage of it and use it wisely. You will have to come back. I was afraid, absolutely. I had been so long without creating that I began to doubt if I was good enough for my own work. Whatever it was, I had to give it a shot. I took the reins again, and once you start to working on it, the state of flow returns immediately. Night after night, the renders began to pile up, and I could see the end getting closer.
Before I knew it, all the renders were done. I began with the editing and an overwhelming sound design. But just before finishing, I had an idea. I looked up and saw that my walls was very white and dull, so I found a way to fix it. And for the first time in my entire life, I was able to touch my artwork. After all this time thinking that I would never achieve it, it's here. Those impossible shots are reality now, showing that kind of places where I would love to be. Like flying in a plane, or maybe traveling by train, exploring the city of New York, or having a breakfast in a cozy cafe in Poland. Each shot represents my desires for freedom, to step out there, travel, and next render collection is done, but for me, the opportunity to hang some of my art into the world.